Armada!
Despite the release of subsequent titles in the series, and the game being almost 30 odd years old, Super Smash Bros. Melee has continued to maintain a somewhat sizable audience throughout the game's competitive life. You see, most games in the series are designed with very similar game mechanics. You know, you jump, you shield, you smash, and you trip if you're playing Brawl. You know, just add a bit of spice. However, there's one big thing that separates this game's development from the others. You see, usually the games are given the time needed for them to come out as polished as possible. Obviously, some issues get through, but you know, mostly polished. Mostly, yeah. The thing is, Melee never really had that privilege, as the game had to be out for the GameCube's release. This gave the game a staggering 13 months. You know, 13, that's pretty. It definitely shows, as the game kind of lacks stuff to do in some areas. And this was the first game to introduce Echo Fighters, which is it's like Dr. Mario. You know him? He's pretty cool. I love Dr. Mario. The game is also very janky. On some maps, you can just kind of casually quantum tunnel between parts of the map. Combine this with other technical difficulties, and some perhaps unfair hitboxes. Some would say this jank has ruined the game, but despite that, it has led to some unintentional movement mechanics, such as wave dash, crouch cancelling, shield drop, invincible ledge dash, and jerk the shield. You know, straight up jorking that shit. This meant the game became faster and more technical, making it more competitive and interesting, especially to watch. Nintendo saw this and said, no. But still, people liked the game's movement enough, and have kept with it since. Hey everyone, welcome to the Tonight Day Show. Today I'm joined by Melee Player. Do you have anything you want to say to the audience? Great! Well, time for our next segment. Guest versus Hydraulic Press. With the games community being around for over 24 years, it's built up its fair share of stories and players. But the thing is, you may not have heard of them. So I'm going to do a brief history of Melee, while also making a tier list of the players, because I want that viewer retention, of course. After the game was released in 2001, people began hosting small underground tournaments. But one of the first tournaments to really advance from that, underground feel, would be the Tournament Go series. This series was hosted by Matt DZ. Don't really know much about him. Probably gonna give him like a C. That's probably the best. By Tournament Go 4, the series would already be holding over 100 competitors per tournament. With players like Jschlatt, I'm gonna give him a B. He kinda chill. And well-known Survivor contestant Ken.
I'm like a little rat. I go, in the corner.
Like an S. Being some of the names who attended. The golden era then happened, which was basically where Ken dominated most of the tournaments he went to. But he did face some strong competitors, such as Isaiah, B. But when he tries, I give like an A. PC Chris, C. And Mewtwo King, S. All these players would take games off Ken, but he continued to dominate. Melee grew in popularity this era due to the game's inclusion in major events such as MLG and EVO. However, when Brawl came out in 2008, a vast majority of Melee players would quit the game to play Brawl. No major tournaments were held this year, which would give this era the nickname the Dark Age. This strat would last up until Alucard, I'm not very good at pronouncing names, A, would host the revival of Melee. This tournament was attended by top players such as Mewtwo King, PC Chris, and Mango. This would see the game have a huge surge in popularity, with different tournaments being established. And in 2013, the community would raise over $95,000 to appear at EVO. Coinciding with Melee's resurgence was the era of the 5 gods: Hungrybox, S, PPMD, S, Armada, yeah, gotta give him an S, Mewtwo King, and Mango. These players would go on to dominate every tournament they played in for the next 10 years. However, there were some cracks in this era, particularly an annoying Swedish-shaped crack. I see you, I see you. During this time, a player known as Leffen, like a C, would emerge and start winning tournaments, despite some of the gods attending. Eventually, he would best all of them, signaling the start of new players emerging as winners, such as Plup. Give like an A, he's cool. Then, from 2018 to 2019, it was just Hungrybox. Yeah, he basically just won everything. After this, however, there was huge things planned. New game, Nintendo gonna host some tournaments. It was really cool. So, COVID-19 kind of ruined everything, including Melee, because you can't really hold in-person tournaments because of the plague. And the game came out pre-warned. I'm not going to say which year that is, but you know, it's pretty old. So there wasn't really any stable ways to play online. This was until the creation of Slippy by Fizzy. I put them in like the Fizzy tier. And the rest of the Slippy team. Also during this time was the emergence of Zane. He was good before COVID, but he basically completely dominated the online era. After COVID, things were back to relatively normal, but now with many new names such as Cody Schwab, given like a B, AMSA, it's gotta be S+, etc. There's a lot of players, I can't name them all. Whoa, look at that list. It's perfectly rated. Everything's perfectly rated, with no mistakes. And I'm sure no one would disagree with me because I'm probably right. I have been watching Melee and Melee content creators for a while now, but the thing is, I've never really played much Melee. You see, that was until a couple of months ago, when I found out about a local hosted a nice 2 hours away, yeah, and I was curious, and for content of course, so I decided to go down to compete. I mean, how hard could it be? I'll just learn the game in like 2 months and I'll be grand. So it didn't go very well, but I enjoyed my time. It was a fun trip nonetheless, and the people there were very nice.
Last week as well.
Whoa, what do you think of this place? Well, apart from that one guy who was annoyed by the fact that Jigglypuff was a character, and just really had to let out his anger during my match. That was really cool by him. Apart from the tournament playing, I actually did become better at the game. I went from not being able to beat a level 9 CPU to winning a couple of ranked matches. Oh yeah, read it and weep, baby. Read it and weep. In conclusion, Melee will survive till eternity, and nothing bad will ever happen to it. Ever. Nothing bad ever. No, nothing bad will ever happen to the game. No big corporation will strike down the community. Nope, never happened.